Right, very much getting tough on law and order. So joining us now is Mark Johnson, a former prisoner and the founder of User Voice, a charity working to reduce reoffending. Do you think, Mark, thanks for joining us, do you think that Robert Jenrick's got the right idea? We need more prisons, we need to get tougher?
No, absolutely not. It was actually quite painful to listen to. It kind of panders maybe to a Tory vote, winning vote sort of voter. But actually, in reality, if you look back 15 years now, we've had like 15 years of this political rhetoric. It started with the rehabilitation revolution. Can you remember David Cameron, hug a hoodie? Yeah. We're gonna really get under the skin of the causes of crime, etc. in the UK, and we're gonna have. And then you had the rehabilitation revolution, and then you had the transforming rehabilitation. All of it, you've had 25 justice ministers and prisons ministers over the last 15 years. And now it seems that they're abandoning.
But Mark, but prisons aren't just about stopping reoffending, are they? Prisons are also about keeping the public safe. And if we have too many criminals who evade prison for one reason or another, perhaps because they're over full, then surely we do need more prisons. That is what we need.
But what you've had is an abandonment under this government of effective sentencing and effective rehabilitation programs. What they've used the criminal justice system for is literally vote winning, pandering to Tory voters.
Can I just interrupt there, Mark, and just say one of the reasons why we have a problem with sentencing is because we haven't got enough places in prison to put them, which implies that we might need to build a few more prisons, no?
Well, right now, before COVID, it was 84,000. Now it's 88,000 in British prisons, and their plan was always to knock it up to 120 over the next couple of years. The truth of it is like what kind of model have we got to look at the evidence? Well, we've got, if you go over the Atlantic, where America locks people up for longer, yet their reconviction figures are way higher than ours. There's no evidence to suggest that increase in sentences, more prisons, reduce reoffending.
Can I
and
just
reduce
give you
crime.
just a little tease ahead to something that Robert Jenrick's going to be talking to me about later this evening? It points to the case of one individual who's been found guilty of 44 offences and never been sent to prison. Do you think leniency has helped that individual or society?
It's not leniency. I'm not talking about leniency. I'm talking about offensive sentencing. I go to prison all the time. I've actually been to prison, but I work in prison, and I'm shocked at the deluded mindset of the people that the prison system are releasing. Recently you've got the 35-day early release scheme that the Joint Select Committee has voted in. That it's got a blanket early release program for people at up to 4-year sentences. And if that's successful, they're going to increase that to 60. What nobody's asking is what happens in the four walls of a prison. I'm leading on a project at the moment. There's Dame Cara Black. 300 million has gone into drug programs in prison. 300 million. Today, 60% of all heroin addicts being released from British prisons do not make it to a GP surgery on release. Okay, there's one prison in the north that's 85% of drug-addicted prisoners do not make it to that's a prescribing GP. That's not like an effective drug treatment program. So all we're doing is we've got this group of people. Let's face it. The conditions in prison are better for a lot of people than actually their lives outside. And until we start to get under the skin of what we do with this group of people whilst they're in prison, we're going to continue. And you get this rhetoric of going, yes, let's just increase sentences. There's no appetite to actually look at the professionals and science behind what is going to work for our society. They just abandon it.
Apparently, in Britain, about 52% of all crime is committed by just 9% of people. And I'm sorry, but if you did lock up that 9% of people, then crime would halve, wouldn't it?
Well, let's use the analogy, right? So, lock them up. Do you want to pay for it? Can we afford to pay for it? Okay, and then are you more than happy to expect them to do exactly the same on release from prison? That's what we've got. 22 hours a day in a 10-foot by 8-foot cell with all of these deluded, revolting and vulgar, some of the people...
Is it not enough to want to put you off committing crime?
No, because the reality of it is, it's a lifestyle. In prisons, their lifestyle in prison currently is better than outside. And until we get effective drug treatment, work programs, housing, addressing housing, we're not going to ever get to solve it. So the rhetoric of just increasing sentences and more prison sentences, I would absolutely agree that prisons are the places that you can really get under the skin of the causes of why people commit crime. But you don't. They're
and it's just not happening. And it's just not happening. I think you raised some really good points about what's actually happening in the prisons. And once criminals go into the prison, are they just going to come out and reoffend if they're not actually getting any of that support that's needed? And you can't just lock people up forever.
No.
Unless they've... you think it should.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate your time. It's been great to speak to you. Mark Johnson, former prisoner and founder of User Voice, a charity working to reduce reoffend. I mean, there's a lot of people who commit, let's say, non-violent crimes. You're not just going to lock them up
no, of course not.
And throw away the key, are you?
But there has to be a deterrent. There has to be a deterrent. And prison has to be a deterrent. And we can't simultaneously hear how awful prison conditions are, how terrible it is, and how people are it's against their human rights to bang them up for 22 hours a day or whatever it is, and then simultaneously be told that actually they don't really care going in there and it doesn't have any deterrent whatsoever.
Yeah, but I think it's different things. So, for example, if you've been in gangs, your life has been at risk for years and years and years. Being in prison, yes, the conditions may not be very nice, but at least you have the security of knowing where your next meal's coming from. At least you have the security of knowing that someone isn't going to stab you the next day. Mostly.
On that, stop and search. Yeah. Right? People were saying, it's inherently racist, or we shouldn't do it, we should roll back our stop and search. Knife crime epidemic. Absolute knife crime epidemic. Yeah. Every other day on Twitter, you see someone pulling a machete out of someone's back pocket and sometimes using it, etc., etc. So the argument there for me would be, well, we need more stop and search, right? Well, then isn't it the same kind of Venn diagram group of people who then say,
but if you go
prison doesn't work, let's scrap it?
If you go into prison as a drug addict and you come out as a drug addict and there's absolutely no support for you when you come out, I mean, what hope do you have to not reoffend? But
yeah, fair enough.
There you go.
No, fair enough.